How's it going, everyone? And the myth, the legend. Welcome. I'm going to do a short stream today. Figure to make it Next.js related. Maybe we can try to build something from scratch, and then by the time I actually get something to demo, it'd probably be in the stream because I'll be spending the whole time answering questions. Does anyone have like a really short, like 1 hour project idea that we could like do in Next.js? Is that even something that you guys would want me to do? I feel like I should have like a template project already set up. I feel like I do this so many times in all my different side projects where I really should just have like my de facto standard of what I would use when I spin up a Next.js project. Because recently I've been using Drizzle, which I like a lot. So I might just say like next Drizzle example. At the very least, I could have some type of template set up that we could like use, or I could use in the future if I ever want to do a Next.js application. I'm sure there's some out there already that already do this. Let's go to make one example repository. Next Drizzle example. So what you all up to today? I have no suggestions, but you're really hot. Tina, you make me blush. Everyone say hello to my beautiful wife, Tina Seibert. She's in the chat. How does Drizzle compare to Prisma? I like them both. I think Drizzle, since I like doing serverless deployments and stuff, Drizzle just has less Rust binary overhead. It just makes it easier. And I'm not sure about performance. Honestly, I don't have enough users on my side projects to care about performance. What is my favorite way of data fetching in Next.js? Probably React Server components. If it's a client component, I still use TanStack query. What is a QCM generator? QCM generator. I have no idea what a QCM generator is. Like a quiz maker? Let's go, and I'm gonna grab this. Reopen this. Okay, set up my origin here. Haven't done this yet. Let me do that. All right, we got the Next.js app set up. Next steps. Let's pull in Drizzle. Now I'm just going to use an example repo that I already have. So like I can go back to my main repos here. And I have to remember what actually uses Drizzle, because I don't remember at this point. Snowball Battle use it? I think that uses Drizzle. Sounds good. All right, let's just copy some of the stuff. So I'll make a DB folder here, index and a schema. Forgot to put a TS on that. And let's get the schema set over. I don't know why I'm copying directly from GitHub. I could probably just load the project over from another VS Code. Drizzle config. Is it TS? Yeah. So let's install Drizzle Kit. And I usually use a Docker Compose file so I can spin up a Postgres database. And I'm gonna change the port here. I have like so many different databases running locally that like, I'll just call this like a Next Drizzle example. So that I don't have like overloaded project names everywhere. Does this look good? Again, there's really no point to this stream. I'm just, well, I guess right now I'm setting up a template project that I'm going to commit to this repo. So if anyone wants to have like an example Next.js Drizzle project, they could use this. I want to see if I do a Docker Compose up, do I get a database running locally? Seems good. Second thing I need to do is I believe I need to set like a database URL. There's some other Drizzle stuff I need to install, so let's just go ahead and install those. I need to install Postgres. Dan Can Code, drop it in to say, appreciate your YouTube channel or YouTube videos that explain architecture and systems. Thanks for dropping in. Appreciate it. What's better than TanStack or RTK Query? I haven't used RTK Query. I don't like, I haven't touched React Toolkit in so long. Is it possible and a good approach to avoid mocking when writing unit and integration tests for next app? I mean, I think at some point you have to mock stuff or else you're just doing like a real full-blown like end-to-end integration test. So no, I think if you're running unit tests, at some point you do have to mock or stub stuff out, or else like how do you verify that the API request you're making, if it throws a 400 status code, does your code handle that correctly? If you connect to a database, you have to mock out the database driver to verify that the database throws some arbitrary connection error. Is your code resilient? So you got to mock this stuff out. What's the benefits of Drizzle versus type ORM? I don't know. I haven't used typed ORM before, so I can't tell you if there's a benefit to one or the other. I'm a full-time Shopify dev, but now I did transition to my main company SaaS, which using Next.js and working for the front-end team. Any suggestions if I should get both skills on my CV? Yeah, I mean, the more that you put, the more experience you have on your resume, the better it looks, right? As long as you didn't work there for like a month. Prisma is like a all-inclusive ORM. Like it has, I think, how do I explain this? I think Drizzle is more of like a lower level SQL query builder. And Prisma is more of like you have like actual like data model objects that you have to kind of use. Just a preference. They're both good. TRPC is server actions. Yeah, so TRPC, it still has benefits because it has like the built-in Zod validation for inputs and outputs. But overall, I mean, I think server actions give you that same type safety, but at the cost of you have to kind of buy into all the Next.js stuff and how like server actions work and like having to call .refresh, revalidate path and revalidate tag and all that stuff. If you're not bought into that stuff, you can still use TRPC and you want to just write your front end code like a normal TanStack queries approach. That works too. So I need to set a database URL. I think I have an example project, which I could probably open up in another terminal somewhere. I'm going to open up a new VS Code instance, and we're going to go to Pantry Tracker. And hopefully, I don't think there's anything sensitive on this .env file, but just in case, I'm not going to risk it. Look at my desktop. Look how crazy this is. Need to organize it. So let's go make a .env file. Put that database URL there, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my Docker file, grab that port, use that instead, and we should be good to go in terms of the drizzle aspect of things. Now, I do want to go ahead and I don't know what we're building. Someone said make a quiz builder. I guess I could have had Next.js, Next.auth set up as well, but whatever. What's the most basic example? Also a question. All this other stuff can just go away. All right, so we have a question, and that will have a title or a prompt. So yeah, the way Drizzle works is you basically define your Postgres tables here. So I'm saying make a table called questions, and it's going to have an ID column called ID. It's a primary key. Also have a prompt, which is a var character, varchar, whatever you want to call it. Max length of 256. This could technically be something like text, maybe. I think text is one. Let's do that one, text, and then you don't have to put a length here. You could just let it be text. And then, so what we're doing on here, this is how you can kind of take your Drizzle table / data model, whatever, and then generate types from it in case you want to use those types around your system. So if you hover over this, you'll see that it's a type question. It has an ID and a prompt of string and number. Pretty cool. Yeah, so let's try this out. I haven't, what else do I need to do? Should probably run my npm run dev and see if this thing crashes or not. Okay, that's working. Second thing I need to do is when you're using Drizzle, there's something called Drizzle Kit. And that's kind of like the Prisma equivalent for the Prisma CLI, where you can say npx Drizzle Kit db push Postgres. I think that's the command. So basically I'm using a Postgres driver, but you can tell Drizzle Kit to take my schema file, compare it to my current Docker database that's running, and it'll go ahead and apply those changes if I ran this correctly, which I did not. So I need to go and figure out what is a command, because I don't remember this stuff. I was close. It's drizzlekit push pg, and then you could pass it a config file if you want to, but hopefully it'll just find it. Not find module.env config, so I think I need to install .env. I think I've seen this error before. Don't remember how I fixed it. I think it was a tsconfig thing, so I said es next here. Yeah, there we go. Cool, so that basically looked at my schema. It figured out what it needed to add to my table, and now if I say npx drizzle kit studio, I need to install pg. I can open this up in Chrome, and we should have a table here called questions. So you can come in here, you can start adding in a column or a record. I can go here and say this is going to be what color is the sky, and go ahead and save that. And now we actually have a record added to our database, and we should be able to fetch that when we're dealing with React Server components and do something with it. See if I should, let's see. I haven't been up to date with TRPC in a long time, so I can't answer that question. I haven't messed with teams or organizations before. You probably just want to attach like an org ID to like all of your records. So it's very easy to do like some type of composite key lookup based on organization IDs. I render server components inside client components. Yeah, I think you can just pass them down as props. So like you'll have a server component that's rendered in your top level page, and then you pass it as prompt into a client component, and you can use that and render it out on your client, I believe. Yeah, how many Twitch viewers are there? I never even like worry about Twitch because it's always like 2 people join. Oh, I got 5 viewers in Twitch. Where do I deploy my Postgres databases? I typically always use Supabase. They have like a free tier. You can have 2 projects set up in Supabase. And I have like, one of my side projects is using that. I think it's the icon generator. No, I'm using PlanetScale for that one. What's my preference for infra? At work, we use Terraform, which is, I like Terraform a lot. I've messed with CDK before, like CloudFormation, and it's just a lot slower. Like when you mess up your CDK scripts, like stuff takes forever to roll back. And back in like 2017 or 18, when I first started playing around with the serverless framework that used CloudFormation under the hood, you'd constantly be sitting there trying something. You would try to deploy, it would fail, have to roll back, and you literally sit there for like 10, 20 minutes just waiting for all this stuff to roll back. I think Terraform is a superior product, but its lack of like TypeScript support kind of isn't as good as like something like SST, which I've been using on some of my side projects, and CDK, which is nice as well. I've never used Neo4j, so I can't answer that question. How about a quiz builder where it asks what topic you want to be quizzed about? A quiz generator that uses OpenAI. You can generate 10 questions and answers a GPT quiz. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I've heard good things about Pulumi. I've never touched it. I've just been playing around with SST, and I like it a lot. Yeah, I don't know what Ion is. I know Dax has been like talking about it, but I don't know what this product's supposed to be. So if you do know, Z official, let us know what Ion's purpose is. Is it basically supposed to be a better CDK or something, or a better infrastructure as code tool? Anyway, let's see if we can actually fetch some data and see if this is actually set up correctly. So inside of app, I'm gonna go to my page here, and we're gonna just delete everything. There. Even the main. Let's just get rid of the classes. I like to start fresh. And we're gonna go ahead and try to fetch some data here. So we're gonna go put an async here. Now, one thing I noticed about my auto import is sometimes I can't find where this is defined, like this schema. I'm saying export DB here, but like when I do DB, it just can't find it. I wonder if I rename this to Drizzle, if it'd be smarter. That's probably a bad one to name too. Just say my DB and see what happens. Hey, that one worked. We'll keep it as my DB for now. Why is it not typed though? Oh, duh. Okay. Is that how you do it? A named export? There you go. So this is like the Postgres database, Postgres.js database. Sorry, I hate that the auto import doesn't work. Why is this not working? Maybe I just had to import it the first time. Anyway, so we're trying to fetch some data here. So if I get like that questions and say await db dot, I think it's query, and then I could say questions. And I don't remember the syntax, so I think it's just that, isn't it? I've already forgotten. I know I have an example somewhere. Oh, I have the same project open up twice for some reason. Hold on. Oh, okay. I forgot the syntax. I'm using so many different things. So it's db query, and then you have the table here. One thing that's kind of weird about Drizzle is that for db.query, you can actually do your table. But then for other stuff, like if you want to insert, you have to type in the table here. I find this really weird. I don't know why they did this approach. Like, why not just say db insert dot questions, and then go ahead and just like use the table here? Or what would make more sense to me is you say db.questions.insert. I don't know. But you can query and get the questions here, and I believe I can just say like find many, and that'll give me all the questions. And let's go ahead and delete. I have too many of these things going. So let's try to loop over these. So after you do the query, this is a React Server component, so you should have access to the database to do this lookup. I should be able to say questions.map. I get a question. I can go ahead and like return some JSX here. Probably want to put a key here and say question.id, and then over here we can say question.prompt. All right, so is Next running? Running in this terminal, my studio. I like to name my terminals over here. Move that to the top. There we go. Yeah, so we should be able to go to localhost 3000, and there we go. That's our question. So again, like we got data fetching. If I add another column, I could say like, what is up? In fact, I don't think I need to put double quotes. I don't know why I'm doing that. Refresh the page, and there you have it. You have both questions coming from the database. I will commit what I have real quick. Let's go ahead and change this to a .env.sample. And I'm going to go ahead and add a getignore here. Getignore. Oh, I already have one, okay. And I'll say .env. Here we go. I should be able to commit all this stuff. Initial setup with Drizzle. Have you implemented a system to aggregate metered usage or report to billing providers like Stripe? I am struggling to find a good solution. Good solutions that work with Stripe rate limiting. I actually have a video coming out tomorrow where I kind of make a pay-per-use API. So you might want to watch through that. It's actually pretty cool. As far as the Stripe rate limiting, what I would probably do is at the end of the day, I'd probably set up a cron job. And as people are using your API, keep track of how many times that they have used your endpoints or whatever you're trying to meter. And then at the end of the day, have a cron job that just loops through every user in your system who has used something. And then take the difference. Yeah, take like take the usage of that day and just like make that request to Stripe. And then Stripe will just add that to their database, if that makes sense. And then probably, you know, reset that back to 0 so that you don't accidentally charge them again on the next day. Hopefully that helps. Ion will use Pulumi with their providers, and that will make it faster. In general, Dax shared a small demo of deployed. Can't speak. I am finding a cold, so I'm kind of like having trouble clearing my throat and stuff. Dax shared a small demo of deploying a bucket on AWS, and Ion was something like 3 times faster. Since Pulumi has a lot of providers, you should be able to deploy on those cloud services at some point. It's experimental for now, early development. Dax plus team is trying to deploy Next.js on Ion, or with Ion, since Next.js is the most complex. Cool. I need to go Google that and look around. Is that demo hosted somewhere? Let me scroll up here a little bit, see if I miss any super important questions. All right, I'll go off the stream. I'll go probably check out his Twitter and stuff. See if I can find an example. Excuse me. All right, so where would you host a Next.js plus separate node backend application? What would be your choice for Next.js hosting and the hosting for a Node.js backend? I mean, I use SST to deploy my Next.js applications. I think Vercel is probably the best. If you have the money, I would just use Vercel for hosting a Next.js application. I don't think you can beat that user experience, and it has first-class support for all the Next.js features. For hosting a Node backend, I don't know. I mean, maybe Railway is pretty cool. Do people still use Heroku anymore? Just any type of like containerized server host, I think will work fine. Just as long as it has like auto scaling and has good ways to like do logs. Like you can look into the logs of your node server. I think even like Netlify and DigitalOcean have great ways to deploy a containerized node server. So like for the node backend, it's super simple. Pick whatever works. Whatever's in your budget and it seems like it works. What is ESLint? ESLint looks to your code and tells you if you're doing stuff that isn't good. Can I use TDD in this project? TDD sucks. There you have it. TDD is one of those like trigger words where like people get angry when people recommend using TDD. I have seen huge benefits to using TDD, especially on a project that's like over 500,000 lines of code, and someone comes and says, hey, I need you to add this new business requirement, and it has like 4 different booleans you have to verify in your branch logic. It's very hard to like figure out those 16 combinations manually and like implement it correctly, versus you can just write a unit test, then write the code, and then you know it's going to work because your unit tests are passing. So I think TDD has some really great benefits. Just depends on the scenario. Like it's not, don't just treat it like dogma, right? It just needs to be like a tool that you can sometimes use. Tina, is that you liking my stream? If so, thank you. What are the odds that there's someone here that has a complete understanding of the Next.js caching system? I mean, I like to complain about the Next.js caching system, but honestly, like, if you want to just opt out of it, it's really not too hard. Unfortunately, like making YouTube videos, sometimes you have to like do, you know, make videos about opinions, and honestly, just say no store. That's it. Just do that in the top level of your pages. You're done. Nothing's going to cache in this function. It won't cache any fetch requests. It won't cache. This thing will be treated as a dynamic endpoint. That's all you have to do. Just put that on top of every single page, and I'm pretty sure like nothing will ever cache. Also add it to your API endpoints. I just like to complain about stuff, right? Because it gets views. But I do think it should be opt-in. Like I don't think I should have to disable caching. I should just like get to use it when I want to, but I won't harp on that topic. I've already talked about it. Do I use Next.js on your job? I do not. We just use a React single page application and an Express.js backend. Firebase, I haven't heard this in a long time. What do you about? I haven't used Firebase. I don't like touching anything from Google. I just don't think Google as a company is very reliable in the products they make, other than YouTube. So please don't ban me, Google. But like in terms of their tech stuff, like I was using Google domains and they just canceled Google domains, and like that was like the nail in the coffin. I'm like, dude, I'm done dealing with Google. I want to use companies who like are dedicated to the thing that they're building. Like Namecheap is the one I use for my domains. And I know they're not just going to end up canceling their product because some other product in their company is making more money. Like that is their main product. So if they don't make it succeed, their whole company goes under. Yeah, TD, if you're just trying to hack around on side projects, which is why most people on YouTube never add tests to any of their side projects, because nothing ever gets complicated to the point where you need like tests. Like, why would you write tests over a to-do list application? But on a real work project, where if you ship a bad, here's the thing, here's the one argument I really like about TDD. If you're working at a place where you ship a bug and then you end up having to join a 2-hour meeting to discuss why that bug got shipped, how you can prevent that bug in the future. Basically, it's a post-mortem for the bug. If you have to do that after you introduce a medium severity bug or like a super severe bug, that's a good indicator that you should probably be testing your stuff, because you're wasting everyone's time when you ship little bugs and everyone needs to figure out we cannot let this happen again because your clients had a whole day where they couldn't even interact with the system that they need to use in their day-to-day work. Am I playing the code on the stream? I have a little bit, not really. I just do the code like just so I have something to kind of talk about. But I do have this initial project set up, which, I mean, what's the next thing we could try to add to this? Someone have a suggestion? We have the questions printing out. We could do like, yeah, we could add a form. Wouldn't that be cool? We'll add a form, and we could do like an on action, like a server action. Won't that be cool? So basically, we could just say form data here, and in here we could say like, I'm literally just making a to-do list application at this point. We could have this be name of title. This could be title. This will be ID of title. Oh yeah, I gotta put use server here, use server. Cool, so let's just see if we can like add data. I'll just say create or submit, something like that. Go over here. I don't know why the text is not the right color. Let's go here and say class name, text to black. And I'm typing too fast and I have syntax errors. All right, so the idea is now we can actually insert data into this database using a server action. So when someone clicks on this submit button, it's going to submit this form. We're going to get form data. I can get the name, form data.get name. That basically looks at the property of the form data. It's going to get the one that had title. So I need to actually call that title, not name. And then we could use Prisma to basically insert some data. So I could say db insert. We're going to say use the questions database values. And then we're going to go ahead and put in, I don't know, how do you do this? Values, does it have to be an actual like object? There's prompt. I don't think you need an array. I think you just do an object like that. So I think I have an overloaded name, questions. Might just rename this to all questions like this so that I can actually import the database schema there. And this, why is this complaining? I think title needs to say as string, fall back on that. Actually, I think it'll be an empty string if it's not defined, right? We should be good there. All right, so let's just go ahead and say also we're going to do a, what is it called? Revalidate path. And we are going to go ahead and just revalidate this path we're on. Another thing I really like in Next.js, instead of like having to say what path we're on, just say like revalidate where I'm at now. Like the server actions in this path, just revalidate it. I think you have to pass in a path, right? Yeah. So like it'd be nice if I said like, yo, just revalidate the path that the user is on, because that's typically what you do half the time. And then when you try to refactor code and you like change your subpath, you have to remember to go back and update all these. Not the best. All right, let's just submit, and now we get some stuff here. And of course, it doesn't clear out after you submit, so you'd have to like add some more stuff. Yeah, thanks for watching my content. In my opinion, integration test makes sense for IO logic. Unit test makes sense for business logic. Yeah, that makes sense. I think if writing the unit test feels like you're mocking out everything and stubbing out 100 things, it's probably not good as a unit test. Probably just like let that stuff talk to whatever it needs to talk to and write an integration test over it. If it's a simple pure function, like it has inputs, it has outputs, maybe it talks like it does like one side effect, then yeah, maybe you can just stub that out and do a unit test on it. But that's my opinion on that. I've had good experience with render until the site started getting high traffic and it became very expensive for what it was. Yeah, that's the one thing you have to look into is how much are they charging for bandwidth, like egress. What's the other one? Igress. How much do they charge you for bandwidth coming in? How much do they charge you for bandwidth going out? I mean, oh yeah, overall, like there are side effects to doing TDD. It forces the dev to think of not just happy path scenarios. I think it boils down to, do you want to test first or do you want to test after you write the code? Sometimes it makes more sense to write the test after because you're like experimenting, you're trying something that's really hard to understand. And writing the code itself is the art form that helps you understand the problem you're trying to solve. If the business logic is super straightforward and like it's written to you in such a way that like it makes sense, then yeah, you can start with the tests. That's the approach I take. Let's just have a QA session. Yeah, if you guys want to have a QA session, I'm cool just answering questions. I don't know. I've been using Convex. Like, I think Convex is kind of like Firebase, but it's better in my opinion. Although I haven't used Firebase at all. How to revalidate data after 3 to 5 minutes on production? I couldn't figure it out. So I think when you call revalidate path, correct me if I'm wrong, when you call like revalidate path or revalidate tag, depending on where you're deploying, that actually tells whatever caching system that Vercel uses, and I think SST uses an S3 bucket for cache. It tells the cache to basically mark that key as expired. And so what you could do is you could have an API endpoint that basically just calls this. I don't think you have to call this from a server action. I think you can call this from an API endpoint. And so you could have like a 5-minute cron job that just hits an API endpoint that revalidates something. That's how I do it at the top of my head. Maybe there's other ways to do it. But yeah, you could literally have an API endpoint that when it's invoked, you just call revalidate tag or revalidate path. And then any other page that's using that data should show the new data. You know, let's try that out. That may be pretty cool. Let's try that out. So I'm going to go here and say, we're going to do a test. And I'm going to say, what's it called? Handler? Called route. Next.js docs. It'd be a cool little experiment. I always have to go and remember how to even make these route handlers, because like when you start using server actions and React server components, you don't even like make APIs anymore. Where is the handler? Here it is. All right, let's try this. Let's just grab this code, put it here. We're going to call revalidate path on the root. We'll import this, and then we're going to go ahead and just return JSON here, I guess, whatever. All right, so moment of truth. I'm going to remove the revalidate path here, and then I'm going to call this endpoint manually. Okay, so let's go back over here. I'm going to submit this a couple times. So I clicked it like 5 or 6 times. And just to show you that, if I refresh the page, we have a bunch of submissions, right? And so now if I were to go over here and say /test and hit it, it says revalidated. And now if I were to go ahead and, wait, how is this testing the problem? How's this testing it out? Because if I refresh the page anyway, it's going to show the new data. You know, I thought I was going to show you something cool, an experiment, but now I just don't think that's actually the... Would this be cached? It doesn't help that the caching works completely different locally than it does when you build the project. You know, let's go down this path. Let's just keep on seeing if we can get this going. So instead of running the project, I'm going to build a project. And then I'm going to say start the project. And now if I go here, refresh the page, type in something, refresh, I don't see the data. Okay, although it is in the database. If I refresh this page, I have 2 records here, but that data is not showing up here. And I think if I were to hit this endpoint now and go back and refresh, it shows up. Okay, so there was the experiment, and it turns out that you can just hit an API endpoint, tell it to revalidate some page or some path, and then the next time that the user comes and hits that page, they should see the revalidated path. The theme I use is called Bearded Theme Stained Blue. How's my Vim journey? I'm a Vim master now, okay? I was too good at Vim, I had to switch back to VS Code because I was too proficient. I was making my coworkers, you know, they're getting jealous of how fast I was coding, so I had to switch back to VS Code. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Tom Does Tech. I did watch your video. I did. By the way, Tom Does Tech. He is another YouTuber. Go check him out. I'll paste his YouTube link. I usually always give out shout outs to other content creators who come in here. I just forgot to. So go check out Tom Does Tech. He has a video where he kind of gives some good advice on how you can kind of become a better engineer. Go check it out. I forgot what the main topics were of that video. Let me go back to it real quick. I have a problem where I'll watch a video and then like 5 minutes after I watch the video, I forgot everything that I just watched. Care about what you're doing. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be so fast to critique. Use public channels. Use stand customer product. Yes. I really like the don't be so fast to critique one. Like, you'll get onto a project and you're like, dude, why are you guys doing things like this? Like, why are you using this type of database? Why are you doing things X, Y, and Z? But there's 5 years of like journey that took us to the point that we're at now. Like maybe 90% of all the team quit. And now it's like 1 or 2 people left over. And then you hired a bunch of new people and you didn't have time to go back and refactor different approaches. So like, it's really good to like not critique the project you're on without fully understanding why it got to that point. And half of these projects probably don't even document what's going on in the first place. So like, you can just join a team and say, this is all garbage. And then you realize it's garbage for a reason. Do we need to create our own design system or can we use a UI library such as ShadCN? Depends on the project. I mean, like if it's a side project, I would just use ShadCN or some type of existing component library. But some projects are probably going to have like a designer and they're going to want to have components look a certain way. And then you're going to have to like probably build your components to match whatever design patterns that they want to use. So I'm not sure if that answered your question. Did you run into any connection pull issues with Prisma on serverless? I haven't seen any connection pull issues before, but again, I don't have like how many users and how much traffic would you need to start hitting those connection issues? That's the real question. Because I mean, if you can get away with like 10 requests per second, that's quite a lot of actually that's not really that much, but like, you know what I mean? I haven't seen any connection issues though. And I mostly use AWS at work, but have you given a shot of Cloudflare? I'm shameful to admit that only recently I discovered that Cloudflare isn't only for cache and CDN. They have a ton of other services. It's like if AWS and Vercel had a baby together. Interface is easy to use. No, I have to try that out. Does Cloudflare have a image store service? I think they do, don't they? Or like read something. Cloudflare images. Have I tried Fast API? I have not. What middlewares you use? Saga, Stunk, or Context? I mean, when you're using Next, you don't really have to have that much state management libraries. Like, I would probably opt in the Zustan or Jotai if I really need to share some type of state on my page between different components. But my first thing I would do is just prop drill or use context. I think those are the easiest approaches. Could you not get the current path in Next.js and pass that to revalidate path? So typically on the server side of things, you can't get the current path, right? Like in Next.js, I don't think there's like a use, like you can't use any hooks in your action, right? So how would you get the actual path for your server action? You don't have access to the request, so you don't know what endpoint is being hit. So I don't think you can just look at like, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's a way to do that. Why is my, oh. All right, later. Adicia, have a good night. How did you set up your Postgres locally? It seems so fast how you spin up a new database. I'm using Docker, so like I have a Docker compose file that specifies to use a Postgres image. And all you have to do is give it like a location where it stores the data. And you'll see there's a volume mount here. I'm basically connecting this image to this volume mount. And then you give it some like configuration, such as like what ports do you want it to use? What is the default password you're going to use? And then you just run Docker Compose up and it creates your database. Why did you stop using the pages router? If yes, why? Mainly just because like Next.js came out with a new way to do things, and I would probably opt into using that over sticking with something that's not legacy, although I've heard them in a conference call the pages router legacy. I don't know how true that is, but I'm assuming at some point they're going to stop supporting both the app router and the pages router. Because if you think about it, like that's a lot of stuff to support from an open source perspective. They say that they're going to keep the pages router around and they're going to support it for a while. But if I was running an open source community, I would drop it. Like personally, I would say I'm not going to keep on adding support to this. But I mean, I'm sure like what in probably 4 or 5 years, they'd probably end up like dropping support for adding updates and stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure about the carousel question. Don't you think that building a great product comes from the idea, but not the framework itself? Not necessarily. I mean, the framework can help achieve a better user experience and help you get that product out the door faster. But I mean, you can build an excellent product. It doesn't matter what stack you use. You can build an excellent product as long as you have talented people who can use a certain stack. Like I'm sure there's people here that have used PHP and just vanilla JavaScript, and they could make the best type of UI that you've ever seen. But I mean, like, I don't know what point I'm getting at. The point I'm getting at is that it doesn't matter about what stack you use as long as you're good at it. But as languages get older, like there's less people who are really good at it. What is my recommended project for an intern? Yeah, I don't know. Just build something big. I think a lot of times people who are getting into coding, they'll build something small, like a to-do list app or like a tic-tac-toe app or something. I think you need to build something big. Like you need to have authentication. Maybe you can add role-based checks, add in, deleting a user profile, add in settings, add in all the CRUD methods you might need to see, and just keep on adding on to it. I wouldn't jump from project to project to project. I would stick to one project and just try to add more features to it. Like make sure you send out email notifications when users respond to you with comments or something. Like try to make it really cool. Any advice for finding a smaller job? Any advice for finding jobs at smaller companies? Yeah, honestly, I can't give job advice. I've been coding for like 10 years now and I haven't really done that many interviews. I've been pretty happy with where I work, so I don't really try to like find different jobs. I just hear that it's really hard to find a job. There's one person I know has been trying to find a job for like a year and a half now, and he has like a year worth of coding experience. So I think the industry's rough. He lives in India, so I think his perspective might be different from my experiences. What's your opinion on checking the session provider in a layout compared to every page? Um, I mean, typically all the providers should probably live in your layout. Unless, like, for some reason there's a provider that doesn't need to run on a certain page. I'm not sure I understand that question, Marcus. Tom does tech. Problem is that there are massive old apps using pages, so dropping it might be annoying to some large clients. Yeah, I think you can't just drop support for pages yet. Why does my scroll thing like jump around? How many total hours have you spent programming since you started? I have no idea, but if you were to do, we could do the math. About 40, 52 weeks in a year of work, 40 hours a week times 10. That's how many hours, right? 40 hours in a week, 52 work weeks in a year. I've been working for almost 10 years now. So if I type that in, 20,000 hours, 800 hours. 20,800 hours is the answer to that, I guess. Is it normal to only containerize your database? Yeah, when it comes to local development, typically, like, I would not containerize your node application. I would containerize the peripheral things that your node application needs. Like, for example, we containerize the S3 image. Sorry, the S3 service that's running locally. We containerize Elasticsearch. We containerize the database. So those like peripheral things that you might need in your application, but it adds a lot of friction if you try to containerize your actual node app as well. Because then like you have like all these node module issues. It's yeah. Have I seen Ant Design UI? I think I've seen it once. What resources like books, blogs do you recommend for staying up to date with React or even learning React? I would just read the docs. Honestly, I don't read blog posts. I don't read books. Probably why I'm a mid developer. I don't really do that much reading. I just like playing around and experimenting with things. That's how I learn. I can't stay focused long enough to read a book. It's just super boring. But I can read the docs, look at some code examples, play around with that, and I'll learn it super fast that way. Do you recommend that new Next.js users use the app router instead of the pages one? I would say yes to that question. I read that it still has some bugs compared to the pages router. I think it's reached the point where like you can use the app router, personally. I'm a trailer composer and I made my own portfolio where the user can update their credits and whatnot with a custom login protected dashboard. That's cool. John says he is using T3 Stack with Clerk. I'm a junior, so still so unsure on the best way to handle Stripe recurring payments. I heard you can use webhooks that trigger an API call. Is that the best method? I've actually never set up Stripe with subscription based, but I've read through some code and I think it's pretty straightforward. Typically, you make a product and you make it a subscription based product. The user buys it. You'll get a webhook event from Stripe when their credit card goes through. You read that webhook event and you verify it with a secret, called like a webhook secret. And then once you verified it, you can look at it and say, okay, excuse me, what is the expiration time of this subscription? It usually gives you a date, 30 days in the future. I would take that subscription expiration date, store it in your database so that you can attach it to the user session so that when they're logged in, you can keep looking at that session token and say, hey, should they still have access to this app? And so after 31 days, that should start throwing errors because they're no longer subscribed. But the way Stripe works is I believe before the 31 days, they're going to send you a notification again saying payment succeeded when they get charged that second month. And then you're just going to basically update that expiration date in your database and you give them another 30 days. That's how I think it works. I haven't implemented it myself, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. But feel anyone who's watching, be sure to correct me if I'm wrong on that. Have I moved on to Drizzle? Yeah, most of my side projects I've been using Drizzle now. Yeah, thanks for watching, Demetrius. Demetrius. See. How familiar are you with blockchains? I think like 2 years ago, I was trying to get into like contracts, like making Ethereum contracts and deploying them. And I actually had a couple people come to me and I made like NFT contracts for them. But as far as the blockchain technology, I mean, I watched like 1 or 2 YouTube videos that kind of explain the concept. Still a little fuzzy to me. I never really rode the crypto hype. I probably should have. I'd probably be rich and not making YouTube videos and working, but I think there's some cool stuff that's going on in blockchain. I don't know. Just too scammy, in my opinion. Oh, that's 20 hours of working, not coding. I mean, yeah, so I guess it depends on when you work, but like, we're not just sitting in meetings all day at work. Maybe an hour max a day is meetings. The rest is coding, working with coworkers, designing, updating documentation. So, I mean, like, yeah, I would say like in a day, every day, most of it's coding. Do we supposed to learn Docker? I don't think you need to know Docker. You just need to be able to use it so you can actually develop locally and like mock out, have like a running database and not have to worry about like actually installing Postgres on your machine because that's a nightmare. Okay, it's not that bad, but still. You can run one command and have a Postgres container running, or you can run a bunch of different commands and read through a blog post to try to figure out how to set up a particular version of Postgres. And then you realize that your operating system actually needs a higher version. And so halfway through the blog post or the walkthrough, you realize that the walkthrough you're reading is just not up to date. And then you just wasted a bunch of time. So yeah, I would probably learn Docker just for like spinning up a container or something like that. Will they ever fix the caching issue on Next? I guess depends on how you look at the glass. Some people think that the caching is fine. And You should be trying to build the fastest Next.js front-end application as possible, and caching is the way to get that. Yeah. Jenkins or GitLab? GitHub Actions, in my opinion. I've used Circle CI professionally. Like at work, we use Circle CI. I've used GitHub Actions. I've used Jenkins before. I would probably never want to touch Jenkins again. Just because, like, I think where I worked, we literally had a person's full-time job was to make sure that Jenkins was updated, and like kept on having to reboot the Jenkins master and had to make sure all the Jenkins agents were updated and manage all the Puppet scripts to make sure that those agents could be spun up and created with the latest versions. It was just like a lot of extra work. And it's like, dude, you could just pay GitHub Actions and they can just do this for you. GitHub Actions is cool too because like you can have, like you can spin up your own EC2 instance and you can just run a script, and then your GitHub action can actually phone home to your own EC2 instance with whatever memory that you want, whatever CPU usage that you want, whatever binaries you want on the machine, and it can just start like running on your own infrastructure, which is pretty cool. 1 hour meetings, where do I apply? Yeah, I mean, so like at least where I've been working, why does when that does that? Where I've been working, I mean, you have the typical ceremonies, right? You'll have like stand up, which is supposed to be 15 minutes in the morning. You'll have retros, maybe it's like 2 hours once every 2 weeks. You'll have the demo, which I don't even go to. I just keep coding through the demo. Someone else gives the demo. And then you have like random little meetings throughout the day. No, sorry, not random, like random little meetings throughout the week. Like what's it called? Sprint planning, backlog, pruning. I don't know. I don't. We don't spend that much time every day in meetings. Should I learn the MERN stack first, then Next.js? All right, later. Otez official. Thanks for joining Twitch. I appreciate you. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll have to check out Lee's video about caching. Yeah, sometimes I feel bad for like the videos I make where I bash Next. Like, I don't make them. Like, I make them out of frustration. And I know there's an actual like team working on Next.js, and I like don't want to make them. I don't want to make videos like that just like make Next looks bad. But yeah, sometimes I'm just frustrated because I wasted an hour trying to debug something and I realize, oh, my page was just cached because I forgot to freaking put a no store function call somewhere. Or my API endpoint is cached because that makes sense. Why would an API endpoint be cached? Yeah, so all my streams do get uploaded. I think they take like some time to get processed by YouTube after I'm done streaming, but they do get uploaded afterwards. One thing about GitHub Actions I found tricky is that users have write access to the repo. In theory, can access secrets by updating workflow files. Take some extra steps to secure. That's a good point. I mean, someone can make a PR where they like console log some secrets or something, or ship off secrets to some third-party URL, and then if you accidentally merge that in, your code's going to build. It's going to run that script to take those secrets and ship them somewhere. Is that kind of what you're going off of, Dan Code? Dan Can Code? Build Kite? Haven't heard of that one before. Yeah, we were using Circle CI for the longest time. I think Circle CI has a great user experience. Like, they show you metrics when your runners start running out of memory, which was instrumental to trying to debug Pally tests and Cypress tests. Like, they give you beautiful graphs, and you can see when like the memory is about to hit a threshold, and then the entire container just dies. GitHub Actions doesn't provide that. Like you have to install a third-party action, I guess you can call it, to basically generate those memory graphs for you. So, I mean, you get what you pay for. GitHub Actions is basically free, especially if you're working on an open source project. Like, you can have all your developers building and testing in GitHub Actions for no cost. I don't know how Microsoft gets away with that, but... Yeah, so I guess basically, Dan, you're saying like any changes to GitHub Actions config files, you gotta make sure you're really looking into those. But I guess technically, if someone were to like try to install a Node module, and that Node module had like a pre-install script, you still grab environment variables that way too. Yeah, I haven't really used Code Pipeline. I think I've played around with it once. I think I played around with Elastic Beanstalk once, which they might have combined those two together. I mean, Node. I think AWS is at Node 20 right now. They usually lag by like what 6 months to a year to like get the latest Node version out there, for some reason. I moved to Drizzle literally yesterday. I think it's cleaner, although the first time I failed because I was thinking Prisma is already fine. I guess, and I learned that Prisma file structure already. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Prisma. I think Prisma is a great way to have an ORM. And Prisma is like there's a big company behind Prisma, I believe. I don't think there's a big company behind Drizzle. I could be wrong about that. Sometimes it's good to have a big company behind the tech that you're using. They're going to be faster, at least in theory, they would be faster to fix issues. Versus if you're just using something that's maintained by one or two people, you know, you got to roll your dice on that, I guess. I'm doing some Stripe recurring payments right now. I'm just wondering, should I save all the payment transactions in my database, like the price? I would just let Stripe handle that. Unless there's something in the Stripe API, the Stripe UI, that you can't like get the data that you need very well, I would just store it all in Stripe. I've never really had to go back and like try to correlate stuff. Like if someone messages me and say, hey, I need a refund on something, I just go into Stripe, I find their name, and I just refund them the money or something. But if you do have a need to like correlate your data in your system with the data of the purchase or something, then yeah, maybe it's good to store that information somehow in your own system. Even if you aren't literally coding 40 hours a week, the code you work on outside of work makes up for it. I would say 20 hours is a fair estimate for 10 years. Yeah, that's true. Are you going to upload? Oh, yeah, I already read that one. How do you market your side projects? I just post random videos on X, and then I make videos on my channel, and then typically I'll put a link to my side projects in the description if I think it's a side project that's worth marketing. Why did I stop using the T3 app? Because I think server actions and React server components basically achieve the type safety that T3 stack was providing. And so I figured, hey, let's just use the less, in my opinion, the less you have to use in a project, the better. Like the less stuff you have to know. Just using the primitives that Next.js gives, I think it's less than having to know TRPC as well. Do you use Jest at work, or is that for testers to work on? Yes, us developers use Jest. We have to write the unit tests and integration tests, and we use Cypress for our end-to-end in smoke tests. Tom does tech. I used Circle CI at my last company. It was really good and easy. I agree with that. We did start getting messages from leadership to try to get off of Circle CI because it was getting kind of expensive for our, we had like a 10 developer team. And so we were hitting like points where it's like, maybe we should try to get off of Circle, especially since we can use GitHub Actions and not have to pay anything for it. And so we kind of made that transition. We still have some stuff running in Circle CI because Circle CI has more features. At least I think it does. At least I'm pretty sure it does. Anyway, to anyone who wants an antidote to provide React is trash, buy a low-end phone and try using an app made with React. Twitch has a full team. We're not able to get it right, and yes, I'm hating. Yeah. It's okay. You can vent it out. We're here. We're here to listen. Tell us how much you hate React. What is up? Motivation maxed out. Or I have an appointment on the annular interview. Yeah, I can't give you advice on when to ask for a raise. I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt to ask for a raise. If they say no, then like start interviewing at other companies and then get offer letters and then take those offer letters back to your own company and say, hey, people are offering me a 10% bonus or increase. Can you guys match it? And if they can't, then just leave. If money's your goal, then it's always good to have leverage, you know? Do you use something for my beard? I do not. I have no idea what that minoxidil. Don't know what that is. What do junior developers end up doing? Do you mainly just write unit tests? Yeah, I can't tell you what a junior engineer does because our team doesn't hire junior engineers. We typically hire other senior engineers on our team. So I don't know what a junior engineer does these days. When I first got hired as a junior engineer, I would say the first like year is just me trying to learn the tools of the trade, learning how to write tests, how to implement some basic features, that type of stuff. Tech Rally, what's up? Can I play Final Fantasy X Piano Collections Assault? I wish I could. I don't remember how to play that song anymore. By the way, give Tech Rally a subscribe. Let me go ahead and find his YouTube link. Hold on. There you go. Go ahead and give Tech Rally a subscribe. He's also another YouTuber. What do you do now that you don't use T3 app, just Next.js and Drizzle? Yeah, Next.js and Drizzle. I've been using Convex as well on other side projects. And I don't have to worry about any type of... I can just use React Query, basically, with Convex. It's been nice. Do you feel like your side income is a necessary day-to-day now, or is it just a nice safety net? I think right now it's helping with the day-to-day bills. At some point, hopefully it'll be nice, like a nice safety net. I need to go to Amazon and see how much Amazon pays for their engineers. Maybe it's time for me to get a salary upgrade or something. But I like my team. I've been on my current company for like 7 or 8 years now. I just like the team. I like the project. Everyone's nice and humble. They're nice, fun to work with. There's no animosity or hatred. It's just people trying to like work with each other, pair program with each other, do collaboration. So once you find a good team and a project, it's like, do you really want to risk going to somewhere else that might not have that same, benefits? Tip, do not answer questions that are not dev related. That way you don't feel like you have to hide your face. I enjoy your content 100%. What do you mean I have to hide my face? My face has been on this whole time. One arm pull-ups, impressive. What DB is the best choice for a lead management system? I don't know. Yeah, thanks Tech Rally. Maybe one day. I know you like working at Amazon, don't you? I kind of keep where I work hidden because I just don't want people to like dox me or whatever. I try to keep my YouTube like separate, separate. Any advice on how to stay consistent? Discipline, maybe? So where I work, we try to land a bunch of different government contracts. So like, we'll try to give out proposals to the government to win state level or federal level contracts. So it's kind of like a consulting firm in a sense that we have to have a bunch of like experienced engineers to kind of be able to land the bids. But I sometimes wonder what it would look like to work at like a startup or something, like a fast-paced startup. I just don't have. I don't think I have that energy anymore. Can you explain what exactly does Convix do? It's a backend as a service, so it's like Firebase, but better in my opinion. Has a file storage you can use. Basically, you update your database and you automatically get WebSocket events when you update certain tables. So your UI just automatically updates when your data changes. Yeah, the idea, I've worked at a larger company before, like a larger project that did like microservices, and it just wasn't fun. Like when you need to like just do something simple, like for example, the bigger project I was on, we needed access to be able to write to an S3 bucket. We had to contact another team, the security team. They had to put in like a proposal. We had to like argue our case why we need the bucket. How much are we going to cost using this bucket? And then like they get back to us 2 weeks later to tell us you have access to this now. Here's like your bucket. And so like when teams and projects get larger, there's like more red tape and you can't move fast because you're just like waiting on other teams to like do stuff for you. It's just not fun. Like I hated that. Versus like on my own side projects in my current company, if we want to use something new on AWS, we just go ahead and write the Terraform scripts, we spin it up and we start using it. So I don't know if Amazon's like that where it's like slow and bureaucratic and red tape everywhere. I probably would not enjoy working there. Yeah, I'm not going to grow a mustache. I'm going to leave that to the Primogen and Theo. Maybe someone else can be the Three Musketeers with them. No, I don't work on any clearance related stuff. So, like, I'll give an example. Actually, I don't want to talk about work. I don't even know what I can and can't talk about. I'd rather not even risk that. Even though I'm not working on anything like super top secret. Do you think for freelancing learning the MERN stack makes sense? Or I think Next.js is enough, but you're still going to need to use a database, right? So you're going to have to use Postgres or something. Oh, yeah, that question. Jonata Zamora. Yeah. So, okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know. That's it. I've just seen larger companies and like the vibe is just slow pace and like I'm an individual. I need fast pace. Like I think I would thrive at a startup. I just want the job security. So I try to work on projects that are like middle ground. They're not like super huge. There's not multiple teams all trying to work on the software. You don't have to go and try to ask for permission to do stuff. And also, I don't want to work at a startup where they're just like overworking you and calling you on weekends saying, hey, you got to come in and fix this. Cause I'm also not going to do that either. I got a family and kids, right? I'm not going to sacrifice my life for your company. So I think finding companies that are like mid range or smaller size of to them, I think is like my sweet spot of where I like to work. I've been skipping. I've been streaming for like an hour and 20 minutes. I might wrap this up. I told my wife I'd do it for an hour, and I'm over 20 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this stream. Any last questions on Twitch? Let's see. What do I use for auth? Typically, I use Next.auth, but I've been kind of diving more into Clerk. I think there's just more features Clerk provides versus Next.auth. Like the fact that Next.auth doesn't really provide a way to use like email password authentication. Like, come on. No one wants to use magic links. Just a terrible user experience. I played around with Django once. I tried to learn Rails back when I was like first learning how to code, and it was too much magic. I just couldn't grasp it. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'm glad you like my content. Any courses coming? I'm trying to work on a Tailwind course where basically I just build out a bunch of random components like accordions, drop downs, cards, tooltips. Maybe it's a little bit of React, a little bit of JavaScript. A little bit of React code, a little bit of Tailwind CSS. I don't know when I'll get it done though. Honestly, like I try to record a 5-minute section of that course every week. But hopefully one day I'll have a Tailwind course that comes out, and I'll probably charge like $10 for it or something. Do I ever go to the office? No, I work remote. I've been working remote since 2015. Am I happy as a programmer? Yes. I really like this job. I mean, it's like you get a problem solve all day, but it's really dependent on the project that you're on. Some projects you don't feel like you're contributing much to society. Other projects you feel like you're doing a lot. Some projects you don't have autonomy or flexibility, and you have to get like approval for anything you do. Other projects you have like full autonomy and freedom, and it's like super fun. You can move fast. It just depends. But yeah, for the most part, I do like this career, and it pays pretty well. So, what are you using Restream for? I'm also streaming to Twitch right now. I have 20 people watching on Twitch. I'm trying to concurrently grow my YouTube and my Twitch, so that's why I'm using Restream. Is there a branding for Restream or something? How do you know I'm using Restream? Is it in the description, I guess? Anyway, thanks for joining, guys. I'm going to wrap this up. I've been going for an hour and 24 minutes. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Hopefully I answered some of your questions, enlightened you on something. I'll try to stream again next Sunday. We'll see. But yeah, be sure to check out my Twitch. Follow my Twitch if you want to follow there as well. And yeah, that's it. All right. Later, all. Thanks for